Take it away. Welcome to Films in Black and White, everybody. I don't know how you follow that up, but I'm going to attempt to do it. How are you all feeling? It is great to be with y'all. This is going to be a really fun episode, and I'm very excited about it for a litany of reasons. But y'all, we are going to talk all things Phase 4 now. Kind of round everything out, talk about what the happy hap is with all of these, where they all land, where everything is. It's going to be a lot of fun. But in order to do that well, and in order to do it right, I need to welcome the other members of this squad, of this crew, into the whole thing. So I'm going to kick it on over to one Roush, aka Brian Roush. Brian Roush, how you feeling, sir?
I'm feeling good. I was sick last week right before Thanksgiving, so I lost my voice. So it's a good thing we didn't record last week.
There you go.
That would have been very difficult for me. So I'm happy to be back. I'm at like 90%. So
okay.
If towards the end of the pod, like, it's like, why does Brian's voice sound like a video game announcer voice? That's why my voice is going out. But other than that, doing well. Had a very restful break, and yeah, eat some good food, drank some good beer and some bourbon. Saw the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
There you go.
I am very relaxed, and I'm very pumped for tonight. I did math for this. That's how much I care about this.
You did.
Y'all.
You did the Lord's work, Brian. Like, you were like on it. So
I'll get more into our community ranking of all these projects later, but I'm doing good, and I'm so happy to be here. I've been thinking about this like all day, so I'm really happy to be here.
I've been thinking about it all week since we last announced it and we last talked about it. So that is unsurprising. But I'm also glad that you are feeling better and glad that you got some time to rest. But we are going to bring it on over to Marcus. Damn, Feige Destin, aka Marcus J. I'm reading it with the inflection that I thought was supposed to be.
That was right.
There.
No, that was accurate.
Perfect.
Yeah, no, that was perfect.
That
was actually perfect. Yeah,
Marcus, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. It feels, when we don't pod for a week, it feels like forever. Because it's just so a part of the regular programming for me. But I'm feeling good. This episode was such a great idea. I don't know how many, I'm not gonna say that like we're the only ones, but there's not a lot of podcasts I think that are gonna do this way and really got the community involvement like we did. Yeah. So it's really, I think this is really special. So I'm really excited to see how we get into it, but I'm feeling good. It was a long break. I did not really do anything. The past couple of Thanksgivings since I've been in Vermilion, it's too expensive to like fly home for both Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yep,
so
I get that.
I just stayed here and dog sat, cooked for myself. Me and my grandmother usually call each other and say like, "Oh, what'd you cook?" And we talk about the cooking process and that kind of stuff. But other than that, I just chilled and slept through it. And then Monday was a day of realizing, oh shit, I did plan events this week that I probably should get on top of. But it's good. We here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And this also feels like the limbo period between breaks. It's like it's such a short period of time that it's hard to do stuff with. So I totally get that. But again, glad it was restful. Again, appreciate you looking out for the dogs and just
I did. Oh yeah, those are my crew. I did find out eventually I'm gonna have to get my mouth yanked out.
Okay.
Because of my wisdom teeth. And so
Yeah.
I got one taken out before I went to go play football.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
In early college, and then now the rest of them are just. So if you see me clenching my jaws, it's because my wisdom. In any slight air hitting my tooth is just fucking me up.
Oh no.
Okay.
That's no good. Yeah.
It's just terrible.
So here's an interesting fact about my family, and I think what's probably going to happen with my mouth is that I was told I don't have wisdom teeth. Like
Oh,
they were
yeah.
like they just don't show up on like on a scan. But my
Hmm.
dad told me this past weekend because we were home visiting my family for Thanksgiving. He goes, "Yeah, I'm 75 and I'm getting a wisdom tooth." And I said, "Excuse me?"
What?
And so yes, the
Oh
Wagner
no.
apparently the Wagner men are people who are freaks and they don't get their wisdom teeth until later in life. So there
God,
you have
that
it.
seems much worse.
Yeah.
It does seem worse, but there's also this moment of like, I'm not gonna take him out. Like it's just
Next year.
like that's, and maybe that's just my dad. Maybe that's just my
Yeah.
dad, but it's sort of like a, I'm not gonna take him out. I don't want to. So
Yeah, I don't want. I don't want
I don't want
to.
so
It's the third time old Joe done ended up on this
Jeez.
podcast.
it
We
is
gonna have
true.
to
He
have him as
did.
a
Yeah.
guest.
It's true. But it was a good
Doug,
weekend.
But Doug, how are you
Good.
feeling?
Similar weekend. Went home, saw the folks. Was able
Nice.
to relax, recover. Got to see my brother, which was always great.
Oh, that's great.
Got to spend some quality time. Ate some good food. I ran a 5K on
Oh,
Thursday, so that
okay,
Was
humble
that planned?
brag.
yeah, I planned on it. So I've
Oh,
been
what the
running
fuck?
outside for a while, past 2 months, and I just kind of was like, things are feeling good. Let's register for a 5K. So I did a turkey
Yeah.
trot in Minneapolis. I did it in 25 minutes, which is better than what I wanted it to be. So
Whoa.
it was good. It was good. It's kind of gotten me a taste for the racing bug, so we'll see if that keeps going. But other than that,
Okay.
I am ready to, all of our Christmas decorations are up. I am officially
Excellent.
ready to celebrate the holiday. We could
Look.
move
No.
forward.
Marcus and I
into
have
the
been
light.
here. We welcome
We've
you.
been yes. Where the fuck have you been? And it's not even
Celebrating
Christmas yet.
celebrating the other holiday because
Oh
it's
my
important
God.
to
Look, we
celebrate.
holiday
celebrated
is-
too.
Only one day. Good lord. And you know what I thought? I had a thought in my head. White people love running 5Ks, or like marathons, but it's not
Right.
just white people.
There were a
People
lot of
I've
white people
never
there.
Understood. I mean, I feel like that's fine. But I thought it was a white thing, but it's not at all.
Okay.
Just because
Okay.
where I come from, seeing people run a 5K is not like in the normal conversations. But since I've met Brooke and now you and like Dr. Grieve
Yeah.
also runs 5Ks and stuff like that too as
There's a
well.
common
It's just-
denominator.
It's
I
cra-
mean,
it's pretty
running-
interesting. It's interesting.
Running as a sport is predominantly white. I
Yeah.
feel like that. I feel confident in that
Yeah.
statement.
Unless
also-
you run from the
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna say they haven't had to, which is why it's a sport. It's like we
Yeah.
run for exercise, not for survival.
Not for
So
what was
that's-
that? Remember that video we used to watch when we worked together? It was like, I lost some of all these calories, blah blah blah, because of the racism. It was like, yeah.
jeez.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to point out, and I'm not trying to put anyone on blast, but I had a funny moment with Brittany today. So we plan our calendar out. So we have like a paper calendar where we write everything down so we can all like refer to it when we're making
That's
plans and
nice.
stuff. And I told Brittany, she goes, "Is there anything else that needs to go on there?" I said, like, yeah, on the 18th of December, put on there that I have to take Marcus to the airport. Like, I don't want to forget. And she goes, "What color should I write that with? With black?" And I was like, "Oh, I see how this works." And I was like, she was like, no. She's like, all of your stuff, because all of my stuff in the calendar is black. And then she goes, should it be brown? And I was like, shame on you. And so
Didn't even go for like a green
and that's
or
what
a
she,
blue.
she started to laugh. So because I was
That's
like
hilarious.
half joke, I was
That
joking.
is hilarious.
But
Wow.
she started to laugh, and then we settled on like a sage green color. So
Mm,
I'm
nice in
holding it
between.
down, y'all, where I can.
Activism. That's
Yeah.
what it looks like. It
That's-
starts in the small place.
Every
It's-
small act.
It is, no microaggressions in the Wagner household.
With a Sharpie marker. I've never understood when kids used to pay, used to color as a child, right?
Yeah.
And they call you black.
I still
They-
color.
Nobody really I still color too. Nobody uses the black crayon. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to paint like people of color. Like if you just
No.
go for the black crayon, you know what I mean? Like I've just never understood that. But
They actually
now
sell
they have the universal
Well,
Crayola markers now, right?
and crayons too.
I was gonna
Yeah,
say
yeah.
not to beat this drum, but we bought my kids the
did the same
the
thing.
skin tone
Uh-huh, sure
crayons.
did.
So like
Mhm. I
Liam now when he
appreciate y'all.
colors, he's like very aware of it. But they're also my kids, and so we had them for like a solid
true.
2 months. Now they are scattered to the wind. We'll get them again, but like
Yeah.
it was very helpful when he
When-
was doing characters. And
When
stuff like
Crayola
that.
did that and Band-Aids made Band-Aids for people of color, I was like, you know what? It's the little things.
It is. It is.
So-
very
No,
much
and
little
he
bit.
was
That's
aware of
awesome.
it, so
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it helps for
Yeah.
anybody that needs to hear it.
Very much so. Well, gentlemen, we have to play Catch That Quotable. Before we get into this this podcast episode. So we do have a quote submitted by one Roman Myers, playing Roman's Millions again.
Roman.
So are you all ready? As I sneeze before I read it, are you all ready
Please.
for
Bless
this
you.
week's quote? Bananas.
I'm locked in and ready.
All righty. So here we go. We want to update you on late breaking news. A massive fire in Ogden Marsh continues to rage, and high winds are preventing fire teams from containing the deadly blaze. Now, information is still coming in, but what we currently know, an explosion rocked the Dacon petrochemical plant early this morning, with eyewitness reports of a 400-foot fireball that lit up the sky. We also have second reports of a second explosion at a nearby truck fueling station.
Can you read it
quote.
again?
I
Wow.
can absolutely read it again. We want to update you on late breaking news. A massive fire in Ogden Marsh continues to rage, and high winds are preventing fire teams from containing the deadly blaze. Now, information is still coming in, but what we currently know, an explosion rocked the Dacon petrochemical plant early this morning, with eyewitness reports of a 400-foot fireball that lit up the sky. We also have a second report of a second explosion at a nearby truck fueling station.
Ogden Marsh.
Yeah,
Ogden Marsh is standing out. Ogden Marsh. That's okay.
Okay. All right.
I have not seen nope. I have not seen this movie that I'm thinking. I've only seen the trailer.
Okay.
What
do you think?
I have it, but okay, fuck. I'm gonna have the butterscotch soda this shit.
It's
Yes.
it. Yes.
At its best.
It's not. It's kind of. I think it's a zombie movie.
Okay.
Maybe a zombie movie.
Okay.
But it's called. Is it the Psychos?
The Crazies.
Is it the
Crazies? There. I remember the poster.
Yeah.
I remember the trailer and the poster, like something with a rake. Somebody's grabbing a rake that got blood on it or something
They
like
sure,
that.
Oh,
they
yeah,
sure do.
like a pitchfork, and they're
I
dragging.
think Daniel
Yeah.
Daniel Panabaker is in that too as well. Pitchfork, not a what you call it.
She sure is.
Yep.
So I feel like that my Ogden Marsh is the only reason, because I think in the trailer they say it's a long time ago. I can't even remember when it came out, but it was like the people of Ogden Marsh are having something.
The finale of that movie is at a truck stop. The
Mm.
finale
And
of
it
that
looks like the
movie
lead
at
is a
truck
cop
stop.
though too, right? The lead is a cop.
Yes.
I think Marcus, I'm becoming increasingly more confident with your choice as we get through this.
I only remember the trailer though. That's why I'm not like
So
I'm not banking.
I don't know where the initial fireball would come from, because like there's a government plane that crash lands in a rural Iowa town for that. I don't know the first part, but basically the second thing does take place at a truck stop. I can't remember if it's a giant explosion, but it is a rural area. I don't know if Ogden is in. I don't know. Am I working myself up for this?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a real place, but I just remember Ogden Marsh. That's the only thing I remember.
I mean, it's either this or it feels like it's the first Transformers. Like this feels like someone is. This is the reason why I say this is because they're watching news footage at the beginning.
Yeah,
Transformers are when the Autobots are landing, right? And it's like, oh, there was an explosion here with a big fireball. It's like, oh, something coming down from the sky.
Also true.
So it could be an asteroid movie or like Transformers, or that's what I'm going with.
Yeah,
so.
or Armageddon. Because I guess that kind of is it could be like a news clip from like when they were watching TV on Armageddon. I don't know. The Ogden Marsh seems very specific.
Honestly, it does. Like you've convinced me. Yeah, and I know we gotta play
but I don't want to blindly lead y'all into some shit. But yeah,
I'm gonna
go with what did you say? Is it
the Crazies?
The Crazies.
The Crazies. I'm gonna go with the Crazies.
And I'm gonna cover the spread, and I'm gonna go with Armageddon because I do like that as an option too. So I'm going to cover that sort of spread.
I'll go Transformers then. Okay. I'll go Transformers.
Way to cover the spread, y'all.
All right. I think you're right, Marcus. Though
I also think you're right.
I have not seen this movie at all. So.
Oh my gosh, I've watched it.
Brian, Marcus, you got it. For someone who hasn't seen it, you got it 100%.
Oh my gosh.
No
you got it.
Yeah. No fucking way. What is it? So that's really it.
The
Where does the
Crazies
scene
came.
come
The
from?
Crazies came out in 2010. The newscaster, who is played by Bruce Aune, Aune, Aune.
He was in Hitman. Oh,
yeah.
Justified. Y'all remember that show, Justified?
I do remember
Timothy
that show,
Oliphant.
Justified.
Yeah.
He's in this movie too.
Yeah. So this is this is the Crazies.
No shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are kidding. No
Wow.
shit.
Yeah,
Wow,
your
my
top.
brain- I don't know math. I'm real bad at math classes, but if you ask me to remember some shit that's not important for years from now to remember, I'm your
Same.
man. You know what I mean? I'm your
Right.
Yeah.
guy.
You're in the right place, Marcus.
I'm
This is a
just
good
at
team
the
right here.
time. Yeah. This was great.
There's
We'll just
there's
spread the floor.
your top like four, like your top build like four folks are Radha Mitchell, Timothy Olyphant, Daniela Panabaker, and
Yep.
Joe Anderson. Those are your top four.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm impressed.
I have not seen 6.5 out of 10 stars on IMDb. But
No, this is a great movie. When this came
Is
out
it a
on
good
DVD, yes, it is incredible.
no
I
shit.
really like it. I watched it twice the weekend it came to Netflix, and
Oh my
I
goodness.
like my wife. She wasn't my wife at the time, but I was like, "Hey, girlfriend, we're watching this movie," and she was like, "What is it?" And I'm like, "Just go into it blind." And it was, oh my gosh, it's so good. It's like a zombie movie, but it's not.
Okay.
Like it goes.
really
I don't know. I
interesting.
can't recommend it enough. It's
Yeah.
it's a solid movie, solid horror movie.
That poster is it stood out to me the most, I think. For me, that
Yeah.
was the one thing that I just the trailer. I don't even know what I was doing in 2010. I think I was in high school. Yeah, I was a freshman in high school, I think. No, might have been a sophomore in high school. But that was one of the trailers. I don't do scary movies. Look.
Yeah. Yeah.
Roman Myers gotta up the difficulty again. No, you don't, Roman.
Yeah,
I just got lucky. Okay,
Yeah.
I just got lucky.
Don't
Roman, how can
mistake
you
this
compete
luck
with
for
Marcus
expert.
randomly
No.
remembering text from a trailer over 12 years ago?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
what?
Ogden Marsh is such a specific. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Very
So,
much so.
That was fun.
That was
I can't
fun.
believe that.
Wow.
That is. I love this.
That's
podcast.
incredible.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
I love this.
Well, gentlemen, thank you all for indulging Catch That Quotable, and thank you again to Roman for
Hell yeah,
for the quote. But gentlemen, we have a whole show to get into, and you heard me say it multiple times on the last episode we did. Welcome to the International Annual Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 4 Spectacular Extravaganza Roundup Review Discussion Podcast episode. I don't know if I'm going to be able to say that particular acronym, but that's the acronym if you want it. And so this is an outstanding episode, and Brian said this is Brian's baby. So this is going to be an episode where you really don't hear a lot of me in the hosting space, and I just pitch it over to Brian. So
I have something I want to say real quick.
Okay.
I want to give Brian Roush his flowers.
Oh yeah,
because he really, we are all extended arms of this same baby, you know what I mean, of the same thing, of like really making this thing successful. We all have our contributions to this thing. When Brian put this community rank poll together and the notes he has for this and the time that he just put into this, it is very rare to see somebody who cares about something that is not your job. You got a whole family.
that's true.
This is like thing you do with your friend that we do together as friends, you know what I mean, on a Monday. The way he put this shit together and broke it down and pushed it out, over 60 people participated in this, and as an independent podcast, that's damn near like 1,000 people. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
it really
way
is.
more than I expected. Yeah.
to rank all of the Phase 4 movies beginning to end, for people to take the time to do that, 60 people is a lot. So I really have to give props to Brian Roush for being, doing this and leading the charge on this. So
100%. 100%.
Well,
Absolutely. This has
for
been
sure.
outstanding work. And so that's why I want to get out of the way, and I want to let let Brian sort of run the show. So Brian, this is the wheel is yours, sir. So
All right.
off you go.
Here we are, folks. Well, those were some very nice, kind words. I just want to say that, and I'm just grateful that we have a podcast and an audience and a space that like people care about this stuff, because like we care about it, and I get a space every week to come with my two friends here, and this is all we talk about, and it's amazing. So
It's true.
we're gonna dive into it. I'm gonna give people just kind of a little bit of a roadmap of what we're gonna talk about tonight. So If you've been following us on socials, you've been probably annoyed to all hell that we've been spamming this voting link out.
Yeah.
I have the results of that. You probably saw some results when you took it. Those were not final results. So I have the final result as of 8 p.m. tonight. That I'll be sharing. I was able to do a little bit of data analysis. So we're going to talk, that's what we're going to lead with. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to reveal the rankings here. For those of you on the podcast that are just listening, not on the live stream, that are listening through the podcast, we will go through the numbering of all of them and everything like that. And then we have some questions and discussion points that we're going to talk about.
I love this.
As phase 4 as a whole, and maybe pull out some themes. I have a document here where I labeled, we have 2 labels, which were PTT, which means pass the torch, or the other one that I'm rather proud of is Gov, where there's a government villain or antagonist in the film. So we've broken that down as well. And we also have pulled all the Rotten Tomato scores. So all of this data, the point of this discussion is to this is the exhaustive, definitive podcast for Marvel Phase 4. It's all going to be out there. Every little nook and cranny that you've thought about, we're going to get into it. That is the roadmap for tonight. Thank you, Doug and Marcus, for coming along on this ride and supporting me in this wildly weird endeavor. I love it.
No, I don't think it was weird at all.
No,
Brian's right. We talk about this shit all the time. Like, if y'all could just get a glimpse into our group chat, we are constantly talking about this theories, like it. So this is accurate that we do this. Plus, on this podcast, since the beginning of this podcast, Marvel has been one of the columns of conversation.
It really
in
has.
some form or fashion. So this is accurate.
It really, really has.
Yes.
So
So I'm gonna share my screen here.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
The people that are joining us on the live stream, you're gonna be able to see these the final. This is the final definitive ranking our community did. We had over 60 votes. It was 61 the last time I checked. And these are going to be the definitive results. Some really quick things before I share all the results. The first being that this was ranked choice. And if you're not familiar with that, what that means is that basically I'm going to say in your normal county election, wherever you go to vote, if you vote for candidate number 3 and like they get knocked out, like there's just not even a hope for them that they're even going to get a majority share of the vote. Your vote stays there. It's effectively dead. Like it's not even in competition. With ranked choice voting, if you voted for that third candidate and then you put a second choice, say whoever was candidate A or B, your vote after candidate 3 is knocked out, your vote goes to candidate 1 or 2. So you still have a say. And that was the intent with ranked choice voting. So really this whole thing was me to advertise ranked choice voting and how it's very democratic. Anyway,
there it is.
That's my PSA.
Anyway, the real reason for the
episode.
It
was a trick. Gotcha, motherfucker.
Actually, the results aren't real. Now I'm going to have a 1-hour essay into ranked choice voting and why it's good. No, I'm kidding.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah. So essentially what this means is that people ranked all the projects 1 through 17, everything from WandaVision to Wakanda Forever. We did not include the Guardians holiday special.
That's a good point. That's a good note.
Yeah, just so people know. Just to avoid some recency bias here. So the other thing I'm going to say here is that first choice ranks, that was weighted above all else. And that is going to show up in our results. Whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, that is how the algorithm decided who was going to get what votes and how it was weighted for how high it gets. I want to give a shout out to my wife, Maggie. She looked at these results with me and pulled out some really interesting trends that we'll talk about and some of the limitations of doing a ranking like this. And she even gave me suggestions if we were to do it again. She was at the point of, by the way, figuring out standard deviations to like figure out what the average rank for each project should be. And then she said, I don't have time. I know you're starting podcast, but I could do this if I had a half hour. So shout out to Maggie. She's
just a half hour. It takes me a semester to figure that shit out.
Honestly, I have it. She printed it out. If anyone can see this, she printed out the entire grid. And then,
my God.
chicken scratch on all this in the best way possible. So
No.
What a
with all
power
that
couple.
said, you understand now how we got these results, and now
sure.
here they are for
Here we go.
everybody.
I love this.
So I'm just gonna start with who our winner is, and then we will go down with the rest of the rankings. So
You want to share
our
your screen, Brian?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Our first our first winner, top ranked,
Jeez.
is Spider-Man No Way
mean,
Home.
yeah,
Congratulations
okay.
Yeah.
to
that's
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home. They were the clear runaway winner
Jeez.
Okay.
after round 12. So by the way, it took 12 rounds of like, okay, these candidates, throw them out, have their votes go to somebody else. It took 12 rounds of that to get to Spider-Man winning.
Wow.
Okay.
So the second ranked for the films in black and white community is WandaVision.
Okay.
After that is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We're
That's
going to come back to that.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Black Panther Wakanda Forever, number 4. Loki, the TV series, number 5.
Okay.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, number 6. Black Widow is number 7. Shang-Chi is number 8. Hawkeye, number 9. Moon Knight, number 10. Miss Marvel, number 11. Thor Love and Thunder is 12. And then we have What If at 13. Eternals at 14. She-Hulk at 15. Yes, we know.
Shocking.
Werewolf by Night at 16. And I Am Groot shorts
incredible.
at 17. So that is the community ranking for folks that took the time to fill out this survey. There's a lot happening here.
There is a lot happening here.
But before I keep talking, Doug and Marcus, how are you feeling about these results? What is standing out to you?
Man, that Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness
Yes.
being that high. Also Black Widow being that high as it is, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier being as high as it is. I think
Yes.
for me, those are
Yes.
the three that stand out. I'm kind of fine with the top two. Not kind of fine. Spider-Man No Way Home,
Yeah.
I think, is the best MCU movie to date for me.
I want to put a pin in that and come back to it too, because
No,
I had
no, let's just get it right now.
I had a
Let's just
very
go.
I don't disagree with you. Like, it was enjoyable, but I also would like to know, because I sent this to my brother when I was home for Thanksgiving, and I said, like,
Right.
hey, like, if you have a second, like, fill this out. And he said something to me. He goes, I don't get why people liked it so much. And I kind of
Really?
like thought about
That's
that, and I was
interesting.
like, huh. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, it's really cool. The concept is really cool. But I'm
Huh.
trying to think, you know what I mean? Like, of just like, are we more impressed? Do we like it because they brought previous Spider-Mans back, or is it legitimately by itself good?
I think if
Yeah.
you want me to answer this question right now, I think for me, the nostalgia portion is going to sell itself. So
Right.
2 Spider-Man coming back, that's going to sell itself. I do think that there was the reason I like this was Peter's development
Yes,
into
agreed.
this older Peter Parker and no longer just this innocent high school kid. So I think even if you somehow didn't have Toby and Andrew come back, and you just did this movie where these
Sure.
older villains came back, and that development, seeing Aunt May die, it really pushed this next version of Spider-Man and this next round of trilogies to a different level. So that's why I like, and I think
Fair.
the balancing act of how much shit they had going on and being able to
there's a lot
tell
of
a
moving
story that well
Oh my
with
gosh.
all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why
I feel like this is
but I
a good
understand what you're saying.
This is a good time to say, like, this is spoilers for literally
Oh yeah.
anything Marvel has
everything.
released ever.
Everything.
People have shared enough on social media. Marvel has even shared what I would consider spoilers for
Yeah.
Black
Yeah.
Panther Wakanda Forever on social media. The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, that's also
Yeah.
included here. Like, it's all out there. So
Yeah.
if you need to come back to this at the 28-minute mark, please do so. But
Yep.
yeah, we're talking everything. Everything's on the table.
And that brings me to my second point, which is, I don't know what Doctor Strange is doing there in that third spot. Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
with those, I mean, because
Yeah.
again, I'm with Marcus. 1 and 2 to me,
Yep.
depending on the day and which way the wind is blowing, those
Yep.
are
For sure.
interchangeable. Like,
For
one
sure.
day
Yep.
WandaVision is better. The next day I really liked No Way Home.
Yes.
So all of
Yeah.
those are like part of
Thank
it.
you.
So like, there's a part of me that's like, those are interchangeable. So part of it, like Doctor Strange, I did not expect that to be like nearly as high as it was. I'm also a
Yeah.
little surprised with Thor Love and Thunder being that high too. Like,
That
I know
high?
It's still that
Wait,
it's in 7,
Mm.
but there were
Oh no,
from what
no,
I'd heard
that
from
no. So I apologize. The way this is super confusing. These are the rounds. So this
Oh,
shows you where the
Oh,
votes
okay.
went.
Okay.
But no. Love and Thunder's like bottom half.
Okay. Okay.
That's
Then
accurate.
yeah, that's where it
That's
should be.
12.
Yep, that's
Our
I feel
community
like,
ranked
yeah.
at 12th.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy with Thor: Love and Thunder? The more that I sat with it, so here's what I'm gonna do. Maybe this will be easier. I'm gonna start from Spider-Man: No Way Home and give my quick, brief thoughts about each project, just real
Okay.
quick.
Okay.
Spider-Man: No Way Home, I think, was a ball. You knocked it out of the park with Spider-Man: No Way Home as a Marvel
Yeah.
movie. It has
Yes.
good rewatch value. It has a good plot. It has nostalgia in there. It kind of shuts everybody up from being who's the best Spider-Man. And it's like, okay, just pick your fucking favorite. We don't care. They all right. WandaVision, I think, is really great. What I would really love if they were able to put WandaVision in some type of movie format where I could just watch the entire season in one sitting.
I agree.
That would be great for
100%.
me. It does kind of in the end drag a little bit for me, and the end kind of feels anticlimactic to an extent for WandaVision. The more that I thought back on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness had a lot of shit going on in it, and I know that they're trying to introduce this new idea for the sake of Marvel and the multiverse, but it's a lot, and sometimes the direction style of my homeboy
Sam Raimi.
Sam Raimi kind of overpowers the storytelling of Doctor Strange and his development a little bit as far as like a character to me. Like I didn't really get an extended, like I didn't feel fulfilled with his character development, me personally. I think Black Panther Wakanda Forever should definitely be over Doctor Strange because I think that as a movie with the situation and the scenario is just better. It's just a better situation. Loki still haunts me. That score still haunts me in a good way.
You can't get away from that music.
That music is fantastic. And I think for what I thought Loki would be and what it came out to be and how important it was to the MCU, I thought that was great. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was fine. I didn't like the ending. It was just fine. Black Widow, I did not care for Black Widow, but that's also fine. Shang-Chi, I thought Shang-Chi would have been is my sleeper. That is my underdog.
I would put that
movie.
And I do want to make a point. Shang-Chi was in the top 3 for a solid like 8 days. But it slowly lost ground to Black Widow and then Doctor Strange and then Black Panther.
See,
so I don't, there's a lot going on there, but I wanted to share that tidbit.
Interesting.
No, that I think that makes sense because I would have been mad if it went in the lower 7, but I'm not mad at where it's at. I do think that people should rewatch that one, and that one is a little bit of a sleeper movie. It came out at a weird time. Hawkeye is also an underrated favorite for me. I enjoyed Hawkeye. I feel like that was one of the better series that came out. Moon Knight could have been better, and that's why I'm not as much of a fan of Moon Knight. So when you hear me talk about it, it's because I just wasn't a fan. Miss Marvel was good. I really like Miss Marvel. It did kind of hit a lull for me at one point where I was kind of like, okay, where are we going with this towards the end? Thor: Love and Thunder was too goofy. The more I sit with that movie, the more I realize why people did not care for it.
Disagree. But keep
going.
Even
you know what? I love to disagree because I think even Chris Hemsworth was like, you know what? I didn't really like what they did with the last Thor movie because he came out and report and was like, we're gonna have to do something different if we do this shit again. And I get that. I didn't watch What If. Eternals, y'all know where Eternals sits with me. I made a TikTok about that shit the other day. She-Hulk, I enjoyed She-Hulk, thought it would be higher, thought it should be higher.
Yes.
I understand why people don't like it because it doesn't really connect to much of anything, just outside of well, it connects to everything and nothing at the same time. If I have to explain She-Hulk, it's its own individual thing, which is what she is as a character.
You should have heard me trying to explain She-Hulk as a character to my mother at Thanksgiving. It was
but she's a lawyer.
And my mom was a lawyer too, so she was like, "So she's a Hulk, and she's a lawyer." I was like, "Yes, mother.
Yes, she hit it right on the head."
But like at the same time, yes, we've been over this. Yes, both of those things.
You can be two things. Intersectionality.
So, something I need to inject into this conversation because I got a lot of flack for it because people saw the results after they voted. It wasn't the final results, but they saw results after they voted. And I got people message me and they're like, Brian, what's up with She-Hulk? Like, what is going on? This isn't fair. What's happening? And so, including my wife. So essentially, one thing I want to talk about here is that with the votes, it weights the first choice. So one
Got
thing
it.
I do need to say, She-Hulk received the most second choice votes out of any project that we have
Oh
listed
no
here.
shit. Okay.
Interesting.
It got
Okay.
a
Okay.
quarter of votes. A quarter of votes in the She-Hulk for the She-Hulk spectrum between 1st and 17th. A quarter of those votes were in the second choice. And you can disagree with the methodology, but I do feel like it's important to say 15 people were like, oh yeah, this is my second choice, clearly. But I also
Interesting.
feel like, and this is kind of brutal, nobody put it first.
That's
So,
okay.
and I feel like that is reflective of like a few things, and I haven't fully processed it, and it's like two things for me. Like one, it's like like we all say we liked it, but nobody put it as their first choice. Okay. Like so even if someone was a diehard She-Hulk fan, they would have put it first.
Interesting.
On the other hand, it kind of sits weird with me that 15 people agreed that it should be their second choice. Meanwhile, only like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's no way they can hold a candle to that vote tally. Like they got brought up because of their first, somebody put them first, which you can talk about if that's
Somebody
right or
put them
not. But at the end of the day,
Who put
there
that
were
first?
people that put Falcon and the
Yeah.
Winter Soldier
Who put them
first as their
first?
first choice.
Well, not to judge, because this is a open space. Put whatever
No,
you
I
want to
intend on
first.
judging.
But I feel like I don't know. She-Hulk is, if you have to ask me out of body experience, I enjoyed She-Hulk. But if you're asking me, I think that is the epitome of it was good, but it wasn't like Spider-Man No Way Home good. Now, is there a different conversation to say series, how this would have went out if it was just a series tally versus a movie tally?
Yes. That's the crux of it.
But even that's a good point. Yeah, that's surprising.
It hangs with the series. You know what I mean? Like I think it hangs.
It's one
in
of
there.
the better series, I think, if we're talking
I think
series
you go, for
overall.
me, I have to go. I would go WandaVision, Loki, She-Hulk, and then WandaVision, Loki, Hawkeye, She-Hulk. That's just me.
She-Hulk had an 85 on Rotten Tomatoes, just for reference. Like it's one of the higher rated projects.
Okay, interesting.
If people need to know that.
I didn't know people liked that much. That's really interesting. Because it seemed like it got a lot of backlash.
I don't want to like go through each of these, but I would say the things that are of note for me of what I had higher and what I had lower. I had Loki above WandaVision, just for me.
Okay.
Loki for me, I thought it spoke to me more. I appreciated a little bit more of that arc. I also thought the ending to Loki was a little bit better than the ending to WandaVision in my eyes. That's how it finished out. I had Eternals higher than I think you all would have expected. I had, and I don't know, and when I go back to it, I go, it's just such a non-Marvel movie that it does get some kudos to me for trying to break the mold and the formula of being something a little bit more like non-traditional. It's also important to note that I have read some Eternals comics between having seen it and after. So when I start to read it and dive into it, I'm like, oh, okay. So we kind of needed some homework before we went out and everybody went to the theater to watch this one.
And that's where I feel like Eternals, they just tried to pack so much into that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like it got mixed results, is what I'll say.
100% agree.
And what's bad in comparison with with a decent amount of good? You know what I mean? Like, of course, Eternals is not bad, but like when you put, for the sake of conversation, not to interrupt your flow, Doug, but for the sake of conversation, all of these projects are done well. I think when we start comparing good to good, something's got to be bad, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And it's like, or decent to decent, something's got to fall. And
I mean,
that makes sense.
Go ahead, Doug. You should finish your thought.
I was also going to say, like, I also had Werewolf by Night higher. Like, I think I had Werewolf by Night and Eternals both in my top 10. I think Thor, Love, and Thunder finished out my top 10.
So, funny thing about Werewolf by Night is that there were like super diehard people that had it in their top half. We had over 10 votes.
Oh, we just lost Brian, which is fine. It is what it is. It was too much.
Werewolf by Night got weighted down with over half of the votes, like over half of the votes cast for it in the bottom half. So it like
Interesting.
it never had a chance to break out of that. It was like wearing lead shoes.
Interesting.
I feel like a part of that is how late it came out, if I'm being honest, because that was one of the tail end projects to come out. And like, do people have time to watch that?
It was
Did
also the
people have
first
time to
special
watch that?
presentation too. Like it was
Yeah.
the first like
Yeah.
special
New format.
presentation. It was timed
Yeah.
out with Halloween, so people were like, "Well, is this just like a Halloween
Yup.
one-off, or is it something that fits
100%.
into everything else?"
Is it important to the MCU? Yeah, which is a
Yeah.
question you got to think
I
about.
mean, which on our Werewolf by Night podcast, I was like, I don't even think this is relevant to the MCU. I don't even know. Which,
Yeah.
by the way, Elsa Bloodstone again could show up in Black Widow 2, The Widowing, and she'd be like, I kill monsters,
The
whatever.
widowing.
The widowing.
You know, so
but-
like, who knows?
Yeah. And Marcus, to your point of Shang-Chi being like a sleeper, Shang-Chi and Hawkeye are sleepers. I think people
Yes.
forgot
Yeah.
about them.
Yeah.
They didn't give them enough of their due because they are both solid productions.
Mhm.
And then this should also come as no surprise that I put Moon Knight higher in my series. That is my affinity of the character. Again, I also like watching people. I want to transition us into like theming a little bit.
Yeah.
Because for me, there is a theme of mental health woven throughout all of this.
Oh,
And I
yes.
enjoyed the exploration of like emotional response to traumatic moments. So like,
Yes.
and how you can have superheroes across the board in Spider-Man, Wanda, Doctor Strange, Loki, Stephen Grant, whoever it is, Mark Spector, whoever we're talking about in that case, all of them are experiencing traumatic events, responding differently, and that's shaping how they are like
100%.
superheroes in the world.
And so I'm gonna put a pin in that because I do
Please.
have one of those questions for theming. And I
Yeah,
feel like
I'm
it's
so glad.
really
yeah.
important.
Yeah, let's get into it, y'all. Come on.
And I just want to wrap up with like 3 really fascinating points in this data.
Okay.
And then we can definitely start talking about themes. One of the funny things that happened with some of these votes. So I'm gonna roll all this back to when people started getting knocked out. So people would choose their first project at this point, and there wasn't a clear winner. But if you keep your eye on WandaVision, like if people couldn't get their first project, almost everybody could agree on WandaVision. And what's funny is then people get to Black Panther, and then when Black Panther's like, oh, like Black Panther's definitively going to get knocked out, they're not going to be there. Something funny happens with Spider-Man. And if you're not able to have Black Panther, all of those votes go to Spider-Man.
That's incredible.
And then in the final round, when Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness is knocked out, everyone's like, oh no, we're all in with Spider-Man. So
Jesus.
Spider-Man's like top spot for our community ranking absolutely owes itself to people who voted for Black Panther, which I think is just wild.
And also the people who put Doctor Strange as their top spot as well.
Yes. So basically, Spider-Man No Way Home gets it home for Black Panther. Otherwise, WandaVision was the clear front runner.
Interesting.
And again, both of those projects are amazing, but basically, the people who liked Black Panther immediately go to Spider-Man. Like,
that's incredible.
Take of that info.
That makes sense to me.
What you will.
Interesting.
And then the last 2 things I wanted to say was that I do think it's funny, and we'll talk about Marvel fatigue, but if you look at all the middle projects, I'm talking Shang-Chi, Hawkeye, I take it back. You started Hawkeye, you look at Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and Thor Love and Thunder. The one thing all those projects have in common was they were released in the same 7-month span. That is almost the only thing they have in common. And so, Marcus, I think you're right. I think starting in December of 21, people were like, I'm good.
It was a lot.
It was at that, like, you hit
back to back
high and you're good. Like, you're all set. And I don't think people tuned back in until Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
I think that's what happened here.
And
because they were You
Go ahead.
realize you'll get answers in Multiverse of Madness. That was also part of it too, because then you realize during that lull that the series are connected, but aren't they? Question mark to the bigger picture of things and where does this fall? But at least I know Multiverse of Madness is going to give me an answer to something.
Well, and then, and even remember the post-credit scene for Spider-Man No Way Home is the fucking trailer for Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
Like it is literally a hope you're ready.
Yeah.
Like, and so I could see a lot of people exactly as you guys said, like, you know, they saw Spider-Man No Way Home and they went, I'll just tune out. And when Doctor Strange comes out, we will revisit and we will have more fun with it.
Well, and the last thing I'll say here is, like, you look at these top 5 projects and they're all movies except for Loki. Like, you look at our top 5, there's no TV shows in there. And I feel like the larger conversation to be had, if people don't follow the news, Bob Iger is back at Disney.
He is indeed.
Mr. Chapek is gone. Bob Iger's back. And a lot of these shows and stuff were greenlit with Chapek in mind. And so this is kind of the start of our discussion. Thank you, everybody, to voting. This data is fascinating.
That's crazy.
I have the raw data if people ever want to pour over it.
Hope we keep losing. Brian keeps going in and out.
And showing me everything. She's phenomenal. Doug will come back. He just got
we
so
lost
upset.
Brian and then we lost Doug, and I think I might be next. So I don't know. It's like a Thanos snap just happened in the middle of this. So
I think Doug will come back. I think he comes back, but that's what I think in the Dugganing.
That's okay. So there's for all of those who are watching and for those who are well, I'm gonna edit this out, so you're never gonna fucking know. But we're having some technical issues, which is fun. It's just sort of dropping us saying there's an internet connection issue and there isn't. So appreciate everybody's patience. But Brian, your point about the data, let's go back to that.
Oh, I mean, basically, this data helps us kind of figure out where people like enjoy their time with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and kind of dovetailing into Disney has to be seeing the same things we are. And I'm wondering if there was a different strategy for the shows as they were coming out. Some of these shows are really good. Some of them are very good. I'm going to say Miss Marvel and She-Hulk top tier. WandaVision's in there too. Some of these other shows were straight up in the middle.
Some of those suck. I'm going to finish this sentence.
Well, I mean, do we think, I don't know, like, I guess my question is, how do you see these TV shows in the future playing into Marvel's plans? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think if I'm gonna tap in, Rick. I think if Daredevil Reborn is an example, right? And this is obviously before Iger, but I think you go less is more. I think we're definitely going to start seeing more special presentations and less heavy involved series. One of the reasons I say that is because the Armor Wars. They said that Armor Wars became a movie because it was so much shit that they wanted to do, it couldn't fit into a series.
Yeah.
So I think that's the problem, is they're trying to squeeze too much into these series when it's like, it's not good enough to make it into a movie. Do we really need all of these characters and all of these stories told at once? That's me. That's kind of where I'm at right now, at least.
Yeah. I would say something. I don't know. My thought, if you look at if we look at them and we isolate them and we try to, find what made the ones really good, I think representation is important. I mean, if you look at Miss Marvel, like Miss Marvel did well because culturally, like the director wanted to bring like color and wanted to bring light and expose his culture when he was working on the show. So I think first off, that's very important. Like, I think that has to be there, and that's what makes those shows better. I think the other piece, though, that's interesting is that, like, so we're getting rumors that Daredevil Born Again is going to be 18 episodes.
Yes.
I would be surprised if it's still 18. Like,
me too.
I think it will be moved down to be shorter. I do not think a 6-episode format works.
It doesn't
consistently, because if you look at WandaVision, although it was frustrating that it was 8 episodes, and the last episode was a little like it was a little bit of a the last little little ending wasn't great. It worked. and people
Yeah.
liked it, and there were no pacing issues. And I remember feeling
Yeah.
multiple times with Moon Knight, with Miss Marvel, with She-Hulk, with just about every single project except for
Yep.
WandaVision and Loki. I always said there's a pacing issue.
That's
Like,
true.
Mhm.
you would get to you'd get to episode 4 and you'd be like, you got so much shit you got to wrap up in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to wrap up all of that stuff in 2 episodes? And oftentimes it felt rushed and hurried
Well,
and a little kind of jarring.
and I got to interject for my Green Goliath gal, She-Hulk. The issue with her show was that she didn't get a finale. She did get a finale, but they
No.
rushed it so much that it didn't have time to breathe. And like, that just surprised me. Like, because She-Hulk was pretty good as a sitcom type lawyer comedy.
Oh yeah.
And so to rush it at the end, it was kind of like whiplash of like, I want more, which is the problem you want to have with something like this. But at the same time, it wasn't satisfying. So I agree with you, Doug.
Yeah.
Do we think that Iger comes in and changes what's greenlit, or does he change the way that it's delivered like more?
I think so. Based on a recent interview, Disney had their town hall with Bob Iger that they have anytime a new CEO goes into any company. They get a chance to ask questions. And one of the things he said was, I was able to experience some of these things that Disney does, not from the like corporate side where I watched it because it was my job, but I got to see it as a consumer. So I think what he's going to think about is how everything that comes out of that particular studio house is consumed. Like, and so I think he's going to be asking questions like, is this better as a movie or a TV or a series? Can we accomplish it in 8 episodes, or can we accomplish what we need to accomplish in 8 episodes? I think now you're moving the sticks. I think we're moving them from 6 episodes being the threshold to 8 if there's going to be a series. And if it can't be 8, then maybe it's a special presentation. And if it's more than 8, they're going to say that's too much, move it to a movie. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So I think,
and that's what we talked about on this podcast too, right? When the special presentation came out, which means we as consumers, the average Joe, if you will, which is what our podcast is, the average fan, really, not the average Joe, but the average fan said the same thing. If it's too short, it's frustrating as hell for me that She-Hulk was rushed, Miss Marvel was rushed when I was enjoying those shows. And then it's kind of dictated on if I liked it or not based off of the finale, because I really liked WandaVision up until
episode 8.
The ending was like a little bit lackluster. She-Hulk's ending was rushed, like you said. Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, it was a lot of shit going on that I felt like you introduced that I didn't necessarily get a full answer to, and that's hard for me.
And with Moon Knight, you could have cut out the first 3 episodes. And I would have been able to, I mean, you could have taken that like Jeff Lemire, lunatic storyline and made a special presentation that was 50 minutes long to maybe an hour, no more than that. And it's just him in the insane asylum trying to figure it all out, because he bounces around personalities in there too. Like, you didn't need to give me Stephen Grant. Like, I didn't like, he's charming and he's witty, and as an audience, I connect with him more, but you didn't need to do that. And it made, I think, because I would say Moon Knight, as far as shows are concerned, I think if we're evaluating shows based on their last 2 episodes only, I think Moon Knight rises closer to the top, because the last 2 episodes were well done.
I agree with that. I agree.
And I think this kind of goes into like the larger. Yes, I agree. The last 2 episodes of Moon Knight, I enjoy. And it just
1 through 4
too long for it to like get humming. Like, and the same thing with Miss Marvel. You get to a point where it's like, here's Miss Marvel. She's got an amulet and she has a special gene. By the way, there's an alternate universe called the Veil. She's now time traveling. On top of it, she's a mutant, and she's switched places with Captain Marvel. That all happens in 6 episodes.
And there's also this other force that's like just locking people up. There's damage control, which you have to think about,
which nobody has officially introduced.
They're just there.
They just happen to be there.
Technically, if I'm gonna be a stickler, technically damage control is introduced in the first Spider-Man movie. But to your point, though, Marcus, the first Spider-Man, first Tom Holland Spider-Man movie was
that was
5
years
ago.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that. I'm sorry.
Other than super geeks like us, who's gonna care about flipping damage control showing up in Miss Marvel? Obviously, we did, and we were like, "Wait a minute, like that's a bad thing. This is not good." By the way, they also show up in She-Hulk, so something to be aware of. Go ahead, Marcus.
I wanna get to some of Brian's questions that he has.
Yes.
In the notes, because
let's do it.
You have a lot of good questions here, so I want you to just take off with whatever.
All right.
Everyone.
So now that all right. So we talked about kind of like shows and some of the stuff, like what should have been length, what shouldn't have been. In your opinion, like if you could only watch, do you think you could only watch the Marvel movies that were released and you could still follow everything else that's going on in the universe?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the shows aren't needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
The shows are like you find out that your steak was half off the day you went to the restaurant. Like you're like, oh shit, I get all this shit for like less than what I thought I was gonna have to invest. That's fantastic. Yeah, the shows are not needed.
Yeah,
they're nice, and I like
good
them.
Plus. It's a good plus. I think it's great week to week to pass the time.
Yeah,
but I definitely think I could have watched everything, and I think that's something that'll change with Iger moving forward. Is if I'm looking at it like my Madman, like the meme of the Madman connecting the dots on things, it's too much of like this series stuff is connected here in this way, but the movie is separate, but then like the series and the movie are connected in this small it's too much of that shit. And I just, as a consumer, that's a lot for me to take in all at once.
I mean, it is 17 projects over like basically 18 to 19 months, which is basically something once a month coming out. And we heard people dropping off too. And I think one thing that is going to be interesting is like what value are these shows adding? And I feel like people were tuning in week to week, so they like didn't get spoiled or so they could keep up. But in reality, like I fell off watching Miss Marvel week to week because I had some stuff going on in my life. And I was basically able to marathon the last 3 to 4 episodes. And it was great. So like it's this idea that Disney's putting so much out there, and I wonder if they don't actually care if you're watching it as it's coming out, like as it's being released. I'm really wondering if someone at Disney's like listening to this being like, wait a minute, they watched all of this as it came out. That's like eating the entirety of an all-you-can-eat buffet. Like, stop and come back. What are you doing? Like, I'm wondering if their strategy is more like trying to appeal to as wide of a base as possible. They just want you to interact with the MCU one way or another. You don't have to watch Moon Knight if you like Miss Marvel and vice versa.
Yeah, somebody definitely was like more. And I don't know if that's Chapek or if they was like, I know that they love it. We're making a ton of movie, but what if we did more? And like that is not the best result with the system that you built. That's the thing.
Right.
You created this. Does it connect? Underline subtitle underneath the MCU, or how does this connect?
Yes.
And then you then feed us more, because the main question I got is, well, I gotta watch the series to see if it connects. And then I'm 3 series in realizing, oh, there is no underlying connection between these motherfuckers and the movies. I could stop, but I'm too afraid to stop because what if something pops up this time? You know what I'm saying?
And I think the other portion of it too is there's a certain extent of this that, like, depending on where these lined up, and again, this is going back. This does feel like, not to like use the trope from like the ending of She-Hulk, but this does feel like a little bit of like Kevin Feige feeling like he needs to like best himself, or he's playing a game against himself. Because remember, there is you can watch, there's the way that the original, like, the Infinity Saga was released, but there's the way in which you're supposed to watch it, and that's because that's not the way it was released. And this feels like, okay, so how am I, like, what order am I supposed to watch this in? Because Marcus, you brought up a very good point in a TikTok you did. You mean to tell me, Eternals came out like a year and a couple months ago, and
Yep.
no motherfucker between now and then is going to bring up the celestial that is sitting in the Indian Ocean that just nobody wants to talk about? Like, that's the point of like, it's like so there are moments from even the movies that are plot lines that they either put there and they will address way down the road,
Right.
or they're just not going to touch them. Which is fine, but there's also this sense of like, you told me this was a cinematic universe and that everything was connected, but it definitely feels like I'm still waiting for some of those connections to be brought to the light. Not that they don't exist, but to be brought to the light.
I do feel as if it's almost putting, what is the saying? Not your left foot in front of the other. It's putting, you're thinking about the end. It feels like Disney was thinking about the end. You know how we found out on the
it's the cart before the horse.
It's the cart before the horse. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's almost like when we found out during the Infinity Saga, there is a certain order to watch these movies once they came out.
Right.
You know what I mean? We were close to the end of Endgame to realize, oh, there's a chronological order, not just based off the release.
Right.
It feels like this time they're planning with this content. Now I know COVID threw this off a little bit, so I'm gonna take that out.
Yes.
But it feels like part of this was, oh, we're gonna put this stuff out, and then the big reveal is you got to watch these series in this order to get this, and that's how they planned it out. And that feels, instead of just making the content, it almost feels like more of a deliberate effort than anything else. I don't know if that makes sense. It kind of
I think it goes.
It's a little intentional deception.
I mean, I feel like I guess what it feels like to me is where the Infinity Saga was very much like, you watch Guardians, you're going to find out about the 4th Infinity Gem, and we're all going to go meet Thanos. So you better learn about this 4th Infinity Gem. And I feel like the strategy here with Phase 4, and we'll talk about theming here, that's my next question, is that and we've talked about this on the podcast before, we definitely brought it up with Doctor Strange and Thor, Love and Thunder, but it feels like all of these pieces are on the table. Nobody understands their moves or how they're calculated with each other, but apparently it's important for us to know that Hercules is in play. It is really important for us to know that Doctor Strange is not on Earth and is trying to take care of an incursion, which is really bad. By the way, Captain Marvel just switched places with a teenage girl from Jersey. Like, everybody's getting in place for Phase 5 is what this feels like.
They're
and it doesn't feel and it doesn't feel like you need to watch these in any order to get that, to be completely honest.
Maybe that's right.
But here's the other thing that I'll say. This, if you are an avid comic book fan, like, shouldn't be too much of a surprise.
Right.
Because if you are like following along, like, in order to like read, so like let's use an example that I have right here, like next to me, because
look at this guy.
Wow, he came
prepared for a comment.
It's not being prepared. So one of the reason comic book storylines that I'm going to start eventually that I haven't gotten to yet is Avengers, X-Men, Eternals, Judgment Day. So the theme to this is basically the Eternals are there to keep responsible from Celestials,
right?
And essentially a Celestial says, hey, the X-Men, they're too much of a deviation. The Eternals need to kill them. Like, that's essentially the plot line for that. But the insanity that is this, if you want to read every single comic in this event, it's like Immortal X-Men #5, then X-Men Red #5, then the Judgment Day #2, then Death to Mutants #1, then X-Force #30. This shit that they're doing with Phase 4 is precisely what they do in the comics, and they're like, let's just use the same approach. Like, it'll make sense once you see it. And it's like, I mean, okay, that's fine, but again, you can't give me a guide. Like, give me something to follow here. Like, at least
the trick you pulled the first time with the Infinity Saga of just patient, everybody be patient. The hard part about doing a trick twice is I saw it once. You know what I mean? And it's like,
fool me once.
You and it's not even fool me. It was like, oh man, that was, like, that was a dope ass, like, oh, okay, like, that's fire as fuck. Like, you did that. Now, if you come back again and that has become your shtick and that's become the thing that you do, it's a little bit harder to impress me and tell me to be patient this next time around. Because I just think that we as consumers, it's like the biggest thing was it's
Yes.
all connected, and there's this grand finale, and you gave us Endgame. That is
Yep.
a hard magic trick to top.
Yes.
And I know that
true.
Secret Wars is supposed to be
And the Kang,
according to
and the
reports,
Kang, and the
Feige is
Kang
trying to
Dynasty before
top it.
that.
And
Yeah.
Kang Dynasty,
Well-
like they're trying to Secret Wars is trying to top Endgame. That was the report from like
Yep.
Kevin Feige is trying to top Endgame with
Well,
that big
go ahead.
scene. So
And-
I feel like it's just kind of hard to impress me this second round.
and I think one of the things that they're doing that you laid out perfectly, Marcus, is like they know, like, okay, we can't do that again. Like,
Yes,
so if we look at our community standings, the top 5 projects, like 4 of them are multiverse related.
Yep.
And
Yes.
so
Yep.
that's 4 of the 8. I can't even remember how many projects we have. 4 of the umpteenth projects that Marvel put out, a quarter of them
Yeah.
dealt with the multiverse.
Mhm.
If you count What If, that's 5. And I feel like that's significant. A quarter of the
It
stuff
is.
you're putting out there
Yeah,
is
that's a lot.
regarding the multiverse or mentions of it. And so, Marcus, I think the other thing is they're not giving you a thread because they want that to be part of the journey.
Mhm.
That's what I think they're hoping to do, so that in phase 5 they can like do weird stuff. Like they just go straight up bonkers with Quantum Mania of like, I don't know, this guy's alive, now he's dead, but it's a different guy. He's alive again, but he's dead. Don't you get it? Like you can just right off the bat.
That's
Or
true.
even to set up the fact that Kang, anytime we interact with him after Ant-Man Quantum Mania,
Right.
he's going to mention how he jumps around all over the place. I mean, shit, there was a leaked trailer where he says to Ant-Man, "Were you one that I killed or no?"
Mhm.
Like
Right.
that's setting up the fact that he's jumping around to other timelines, and you
Right.
needed to set them up in order to know that they were important.
Right.
I guess they're trying to make it the shock of having multiple timelines. They're trying to take that weight out so they can just be a part of
Yes.
the lexicon moving forward.
That's
So what do we think the
Yes.
theme is for phase 4?
Yes. That is moving on to that. That is the question now. Like what do you all here's the other thing. Is there a theme? And if you think there is one, what is the theme?
I don't think there's one for me.
Self-evaluation and passing the torch.
Tell me more.
I think that it's in this phase you have a lot of heroes either dealing with the trauma of post-hero in-game type shit or looking into themselves as to what makes them a hero, i.e. Moon Knight, or hero, whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of self-evaluation and reflection in phase 4 because Shang-Chi does it when it comes to lineage, Wakanda Forever. However we got here, it also does the same thing. Spider-Man No Way Home does the same thing. WandaVision, Loki, all of these series, She-Hulk, She-Hulk is a meta version of self-evaluation of the Marvel universe as a whole. So I feel like that is a piece of it. And then it's also passing the torch because now every iteration of the original Avengers we have now has somebody who is like its secondary or its new primary, however you want to look at it. It now has a new lead. A Hulk has a She-Hulk, Hawkeye has a new Hawkeye, etc., etc.
That's wow, Marcus, that I've been struggling with this question. Like I've been thinking about it off and on for a week, and I feel like you summarized it so well because the self-evaluation piece, that was the puzzle piece I was missing.
Could you put it back up? Because I kind of want to look at the movies that we have and kind of want to.
Yeah, just give me a sec.
As he's bringing that back up, as he's bringing that back up, I want to bring up a point that I think is important when it talks of theming because before hearing what Marcus said, I don't think I could identify like one theme that exists throughout all of this. But what I will say is I do think there's a certain extent of Marvel saying, look, these are superheroes, these are fantastical stories, and we need to make them relatable. And so I do think there is some like art imitating life moments here. Like one piece of this is like there has been a great deal of conversation about the purpose and role and function of government in our life over the course of the Marvel phase.
There it is.
And again, if we look at some of these projects, I mean, Brian in his notes that he sent over, there are a ton of storylines that have a government agent being either someone to not trust or be suspicious of, or someone
True.
who is a straight up antagonist in a
Yes.
movie or a TV series. So I think if you look at that, that's life imitating art and what's going on, you know, even in our own background and with that backdrop. I think the pandemic forced a ton of people to look introspectively and deal with some mental health issues. I mean, that was
Oh,
much
wow.
of the reporting.
That's
Look
true.
at the amount of stories that dealt with a traumatic event and having to process that particular event and its impact on that person, you know, over the long term, or being more introspective in general. So I can't pinpoint one particular like note or one particular theme, but I would say that there are moments from our, you know, societal in our life that is impacting again, even I mean, I could even make an argument to say the importance of one's culture and the impact on them as a as a part of their like literally their identity. Like there are things that are woven throughout this fabric, broadly speaking. So I would say before hearing what Marcus said, because I think he did a great job of making it very succinct. Like I
Yes.
love that. Those were going to be my two like knee-jerk reactions of like I think there's some life imitating art in many of these stories overall.
Well, I mean, connected back. I think Doug would meet what I'm saying, what you're saying, and I haven't heard what Brian is going to say yet. But I think that is accurate. If I'm looking at this thing, WandaVision is absolutely about Wanda trying to figure out who she is and trying to, you know, dealing with that trauma and dealing with that, and Vision trying to find out who he is too as well. Especially at the end, they have this full conversation of who am I without Wanda? You know, am I the boat with the thing? Am I a new boat? If I get the new, now that's a bad interpretation, but basically that's the same thing that they was talking about. Spider-Man No Way Home. That Spider-Man is going through, Peter Parker is going through all of these movies. God. I'm good. We could take this down. I'm okay. Even Eternals too. Thanks, Brian. Yeah. Even Eternals and Thor: Love and Thunder. Thor is trying to find out who he is now. You know what I mean? Based off of like a new Thor coming in, and what does it mean when you're not the only one? And even Eternals does the same thing too as well.
Even like going back to WandaVision for a second, she is trapped inside a house that she created. Like look at Westview as not a like a location. Look at it as she has trapped herself in a creation in her own home where she is comfortable watching a show and shows she grew up with. Like she created that and she's trapped inside of it. And then look at when it came out. Like it's those two things are like parallel diagrams on a screen.
And I gotta say, like, I don't know if Marvel planned this, but I think it's quite something that we kicked off this phase with WandaVision, who was a woman trying to deal with grief and understanding who she is, and then realizing like, oh, I'm this supremely incredibly powerful magical being, and I need to figure out how to like do that without hurting people.
Yeah.
She didn't atone for it, but that's another thing later. But like she needed to figure that out as a character.
Yeah.
Like, and she knew it, and she's like, oh man, like I gotta go do my superpower witch stuff somewhere else so I don't hurt people. And I feel like it's really telling that this phase also ends with a woman almost coming like similar vibes of like, I need to come into my own. I need to become the Black Panther, but I don't need to be the king or the queen. Like I'm gonna do it my own way. I just think that's really poignant. I think that's really cool. I think those are both really good bookends. I think there's definitely, I was struggling with the theme because it's not pass the torch. I think that was where I got hung up. I was like, phase 4 is about passing the torch. And it's like, no, not really. Like Loki's not passing any torch. Like he's figuring out he's a jerk. Like he's a jerk and he's jerking. Like he's just a jerk. And I think you look at She-Hulk, attorney at law. She's just trying to get through the day at the end of it. And it's kind of the same thing with Miss Marvel. So I think Marcus said it best of this self-evaluation after a global catastrophe. I think the only thing I would add is like, it's this ability to, it's not only self-evaluation, but like it's slice of life almost for some of these Avengers characters. I guess like phase 4 just kind of feels like, okay, this is life now. Like life moves on after Endgame. That's almost how I would phrase phase 4 of like life moves on. These are how people are dealing with it. The only outlier to me would be Spider-Man. It feels like its own thing a little bit. I don't even know
But
because like
even-
so
but
much
even then-
happens.
Even then, Brian.
It's addressed in there too, though.
Even then,
Yeah.
Brian,
Yeah.
life has to move on
Mhm,
after
Right.
Aunt May dies,
mhm.
and
Right.
and Spider-Man after he makes a gigantic sacrifice.
Or after he
Yeah.
comes back from the snap,
Yeah, after
Peter is
Yeah.
forced to, you know what I
Life
mean? He's
has
got to
to
deal with
move
that.
on.
Yeah,
Like life moves on, which is super weird that it lined up with this
yeah.
pandemic. Like
Yeah.
not trying to like pull all the
Yeah.
threads here,
Yeah,
but
let's start some wild accusations in terms of conspiracy theories. I think Disney and I think Bob Chapek is responsible. He's
that's
the
why I got
one,
kicked out.
Yeah.
He's the one who ate a bat in Wuhan, China, and that is the reason why we got COVID. I blame
That was actually
Disney.
Ozzy
Oh my
Osbourne.
gosh.
Nope, nope. It was all the
Chapek.
mouse. He's
I
right.
mean,
Chapstick.
but like it's right because we're kind of at this point in the pandemic where we're trying to start to move on, and like
Yeah.
we had this big
True, though.
crisis, and stuff is still happening. Stuff still needs to be taken care of. Just kind of like in Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's like, well, we still got stuff to do. Like, yeah, Steve Rogers is like in time somewhere, but we got stuff to do. We got dishes need to be done. You know,
could
it's
put
kind of
that-
like this vibe.
You could put that monologue that Sam does at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and what President Biden and people have said about the end of the pandemic and stand them up next to
Oh
each
my
other,
gosh.
and they are eerily similar, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh.
That speech. I don't know who wrote that shit, but don't do that again.
I do feel like I'll say
It was
in this
necessary,
space.
but fuck, bro.
I will go back to theme. I will get us back on themes, but like that is like for Falcon and Winter Soldier. If that speech wasn't in there, it would be higher for me.
It would have been
but
fine. It would have been fine.
Yeah.
I keep telling you, it's the ending that you can have a
That last
good,
episode.
like you can have a good series leading up to the final 2
Yep.
episodes. And if I feel like if you would have just gave me 2 more episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just a little bit,
Yep.
I've been good.
I
Yep.
would say though the movies are the same way. Like, and I think what they didn't learn is they didn't learn that the stinger at the end of the movie and the finale of an episode are not all that different. Because to be honest with you, I
Surprising.
think Doctor Strange stands by itself just fine, except
Yeah,
for the
I
last
agree.
3 minutes of that. The last 3 minutes of that movie are, hey, surprise! There's someone else named Clea. She's the Doctor Strange in the Dark Dimension,
Oh,
and there's an
jeez.
incursion. Cut in time. Let's go, and they just leave.
Yeah.
Like, and,
Yeah.
and that is so much context because it's
Oh my
not like
gosh.
Clea is casually dressed. Like she's
Right.
dressed like she's out of an 80s space movie, like
Which I love.
which is outstanding. But it's insane. Like
Don't
it's,
forget the third eye.
yeah,
Like
and then the
that
third, and then
randomly
the third
being
eye.
thrown in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is I'm gonna swerve this vehicle back to themes. Maybe the theme all along, folks, was Kevin Feige being like, y'all need to be okay with Endgame being done. Anyway, here's some stuff. Like maybe that's the 5D chess move he's playing, and then in phase 5, we're like gonna get some more threads. I don't know. Maybe phase
True.
4 was the theme was that it's all the friends we made along the way. Maybe that was the game the whole
maybe.
time.
Oh, he was just being petty. He got tired of we know that Marvel responds to pettiness, right? So he got tired of everybody talking about bring back the original people, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
blah, all this other bullshit, and was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, watch this. Hold my beer. I'm gonna fuck this
Yeah,
whole
he,
thing up.
he would watch something on TikTok and then he would call his, his assistant and be like, make sure that they know that Tony is never coming back.
Make,
Yeah,
make
really
sure
put
they
the-
highlight how dead he is.
Really put the nail in the coffin that Hulk is like not the Hulk anymore. Like,
Yeah.
They
they
were-
were She-Hulk.
Heard
Make her a
something,
lawyer.
they heard something about like not enough action. They're like, give them Moon Knight, like
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of that, like the
Yeah.
first 5
Oh.
episodes. Like,
Oh, you think all of our third acts are CGI slugfests? Here's Loki having a very stern conversation in a space library. There you
Right.
go.
yeah, yeah.
That really was the ending of Loki, and I was satisfied with that shit too. That's
Oh,
It
Martin
was
Scorsese-
incredibly
Mar-
satisfying.
Yeah.
Martin
That
She
says a
told-
lot to Jonathan Majors too, though as well,
Oh,
and
I
Tom
mean-
Hiddleston, like that entire cast, that 3-way, the actress who plays Sylvie too as well.
Yes.
That just said a lot to them for that to be the Loki finale, and me be like, you know what, I'm satisfied.
Oh, Martin Scorsese says that there's not enough drama in our movies. Make sure that Loki has a conversation where literally Lady Sif just makes him feel shitty over and
Yes,
over
that was
and
incredible.
over and
Heavy
over
scene.
again.
What a heavy scene.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
The
They
way,
do-
of the way of the water. Wish he could do some shit like that.
mean, y'all
I also called that movie the wrong title the other day on TikTok. I kept saying foot in the water or part of the water, something of the water. And I went back to go look and I was like, that is the wrong fucking
Avatar
title.
Foot in the Water. James Cameron, you can send us the check now for the free advertising. All right. Well, we're kind of getting.
All right. Well, there's
all
that.
Right.
We're all here. We're all still here.
We're kind of getting towards the end of our time. We're not at the end of our time. But I think one thing I definitely want to ask in this space is, like, what was the most surprising thing to you in phase 4? Like, what thing stands out to you is like, wow, they did that?
It's a toss-up.
Okay.
And I think it's a toss-up between my 2 favorite movies.
Ooh, tell me.
Which would be between Spider-Man No Way Home and Black Panther Wakanda Forever. And I say Black Panther because, wow, they were able to pull that off. So I don't know if that's what you mean, but
anything.
One was the way that they were able to pull off Chadwick's death. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that is big for me. Spider-Man No Way Home just shocked me with the ability to bring in 3 goated Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And then still at the end, I do feel as if it was really about Tom Holland Spider-Man all along in his development. When he walks into that apartment solo by himself and has a complete restart, for me, that was like, that's my Spider-Man, and I can't wait to see what they do next. So those, and then Hawkeye, just once again, to be able to just do that to that level with a character with a bow and arrow. There's no superpowers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just have really good leads that just kill it, just mostly off of dialogue and shooting the arrows. There's no superpowers. I think that is why that those are some that really shocked me. Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Doug?
I think I echo the Spider-Man No Way Home piece, mainly because as someone who was like waiting for them, I try not to be like a toxic fan, but when I heard that was like what they were going to end up doing, I was like, great, let's wait for them to fuck that up because there's no way they could pull it off.
I mean, it did feel,
that's true.
There was, I really felt like, well, there's no way that this can work. And I definitely walked out of that theater going like, ooh, you son of a bitch, you pulled it off. You did it. Look at you guys. I think that's the more positive, like you pulled it off. I think in terms of like the negative, I would say I was a little shocked. I was a little shocked that they went the direction that they did with Thor: Love and Thunder. Like I say that because it really did feel like a buddy cop movie, like a buddy comedy. And I was just not expecting it to go that particular route.
Right.
And so that was a little surprising. And then I would say the last thing that surprises me is that we really didn't get outside. If you take Thor: Love and Thunder and you put it outside by itself, we really didn't get any superheroes zipping across space. There was no like, the Eternals were talking to someone in space, but they weren't, they never left Earth. So really in terms of like your Guardians of the Galaxy or your Nova Corps, there was no check-in cosmically to see what was happening in space, which I think is a little telling to seeing like what phase 5 could be, which it might not be space as much. I think
phase 5 is all in space.
So I think it could be. It also could be, right? Absence means there's a void that they'll need to fill up. Right. But those are my like top 3 kind of surprising moments.
Definitely. I think Spider-Man, you all said it the best. I'm just surprised it worked. There are so many people in that movie. There is so much that happens in that movie, and it's good. And that's impossible. It's an impossibly high bar to set.
Especially Zendaya.
That too.
I was going to say Willem Dafoe because I walk around the house and not for the same reason, but for the same reason. He's a phenomenal actor. I walk around like doing goblin laughs at my house by myself, and it's because of the like ability for him to do that. Like he was just outstanding.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah, he was great.
He was phenomenal. otherwise, I think the biggest surprise for me was Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Florence Pugh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Florence Pugh elevated Hawkeye into my
Special.
top half of my
Yeah,
shows.
she is Florence Pugh is
Um,
very special. Very special.
She is a gem to Marvel. I hope they treat her right. I hope they don't do her dirty like Scarlett Johansson. And I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus, again, and this will be in my next question, but if Julia Louis-Dreyfus is Madam Hydra, she is the big bad or a big bad, phenomenal casting. She's perfect for it. Every time I see her on screen, I want to see more. I love seeing her interact with the Marvel stuff. I think she's a great glue to put a bunch of this stuff together. And yeah, Florence Pugh. I mean, what else needs to be said? She's great. Like, more of her, please. One of the reasons I'm really looking forward to Thunderbolts, like, to be completely honest, like, I think that movie's going to be a ton of fun.
She is one of the spies.
She sure is one of among soldiers.
Three spies.
Do you
a
know who
super
they
soldier,
rumored? Did they rumor that the villain would be? It would be like a Superman-esque
like Sentry?
character.
Yeah,
Like Sentry. Yeah,
like
Sentry. And I was like, that is very interesting for the Thunderbolts team that you put together. But yeah.
Also,
Good luck.
Also, how they are gonna get in there and be like, hey, you know that game, Suicide Squad kills the Justice League? We did it first.
Yeah,
like, that's how they're getting in there to like get that before it happens. I mean,
right.
Again, you're right, Marcus, though. Interesting choice. Also interesting that it's like, hey, how many of you have heard of, show of hands of the room, how many of you have heard of Sentry? Not many of you. Well, here's a whole movie about him.
Yep.
Well, just like Hercules, right? Like you introduce this entire character, and it's like, is there a reason for that?
Clea, Hercules, anybody in Moon Knight, the Kingpin, like all these side characters just coming back or showing up that are like consequential, like Echo, like all of these people. Anyway, so those were your biggest surprises, and I think a good place for us to end on, what are your bold predictions for the future? Phase 5 and beyond. Man. Is there a fan theory you need to get out? Is there a connection that's so inconsequential but you need to share with the world?
I think if Phase 5 is okay, so we know Endgame has to happen again. You're introducing way too many characters not to put everybody on the screen again. My big thing, okay, first of all, Marcus was right about the Spider-Man shit. I'm just going to say it again, right?
Yes, you were right.
I called it when Spider-Man came out that there was a rumor, and I doubled down on it, that they would introduce another trilogy of Spider-Man movies.
You were
right.
So
here's how I think this has happened, just as far as the Spider-Man route is concerned. Spider-Man is going to go through Kang Dynasty. We may not see him as much, but he'll be there. Now, Daredevil Reborn is rumored to bring back the street-level hero that is Spider-Man, right? So it'll bring him back down to kind of Earth. And I do believe that'll happen. I think Spider-Man makes an appearance in Daredevil Reborn. And I think that is how you slide into the next Spider-Man movie down the line. I don't know where else he pops up. But I think after Avengers, after Secret Wars, we get the Spider-Man Black Suit Venom route, because you get aliens, you get all that shit. And I think that's where the next trilogy takes Tom Holland. Like, he gets it in Secret Wars, and then his next individual Spider-Man movie is that. As far as the whole thing is concerned, I'm going to steal one of Brian's theories that I am like all the way on board for. A soft reboot happens after Secret Wars, because Secret Wars is a homage movie in my eyes. All of this is introducing so many side characters, so many individual pieces. And then Secret Wars is also going to introduce you Blade from the 90s and all of these other iterations of Fantastic Fours and all of these things together to be a big Marvel grandiose homage movie, right?
Yeah.
That you can do. Everybody goes their individual routes in the end of this thing. Everybody goes their separate locations. You kind of have your core Avengers team that'll stay on the Earth, and whoever that is, and it'll look so different. But then that way they can go into X-Men as a mutant saga. Like, that is just an individual saga right after Phase 6 or right after that. So that's kind of what my bold prediction is.
Okay,
I dig it. What about you, Doug?
So I'm kind of doing my best to ignore Secret Wars as much as possible, and the reason being is that there's 2 phases between then. There's Phase 5 and Phase 6 before we even get a glimpse of Secret Wars. So there's a part of me of like, That's a lot of ground to cover. So I think there's a couple of things
It
that
is.
I see coming. I think the first is one fan theory, and I can't give credit to who gave it, but it's mine for now. Is I do think that
Oh.
the 10 rings and Kamala's bangle, I do think that
Yes.
those
Connected.
belong to Kang. I think
Oh, you
that
think
Oh, okay.
it
Oh,
belongs to
nice.
Kang?
I think that
okay.
based on their power structure and based on their technology, and there's something about
Oh.
the ending of Shang-Chi that where they say it's calling out to something, but we don't know what it is. Like it's sending a
I forgot
signal
about
and we
that's a good
don't
call. Good
know what it
callback.
is.
And it was not Eternals related, which was
And
my
Which
big
is what
bet.
I thought.
yeah.
Yep, I
I
also
also
thought that too.
thought that was the case too. So that I
Yeah,
was
great
just as
callback, Doug.
yeah. So I think that is calling to Kang. So I think that he is
Yep.
going to be on a quest for, Ant-Man will have him fix the chair, and then it will be like it'll have him like fix a portion of the chair or go back in time to like help him get some of those things or whatever that might be. But I think that that's going to have something to do with it. I think at some point in time we do get a look at Victor Von Doom. I think we kind of have to
Yes.
with
Mhm.
Fantastic Four coming at the beginning of Phase 6. And then I do think that there is going to be some hint or some reference to this what I call the like ghost half of Marvel. So I think that there's either a mention of Ghost
Ooh.
Rider or Blade, or I think that
Oh, the
there
Werewolf by Night type
or
of.
Yup.
I think that there has to be some monster, for lack of a better word, some monster verse. Like Blade is
Yep.
coming, and we've never heard anyone talk about a vampire that is MCU related, other than Morbius,
She-Hulk.
which we don't.
She-Hulk
so
mentioned.
then
Well, was he a
Mhm.
vampire?
We didn't know. We don't know, but
Was he?
that was the first time we heard. Yeah.
So yeah, so there's some
Yeah.
like trick or treat like stuff that's in there. So I do think we see a reference to both like vampires or at least to Blade, and then we
Yeah.
also see a reference at least to either it's a Johnny Blaze or somebody in the Ghost Rider world of things. There we don't see them, but there is a line or there's a hint or something like that that's coming. So those
Yep.
are my like top 3 predictions.
I dig it.
That was a great callback, dude.
No,
That's
the
great.
Midnight Suns /
I think that's
Defenders
happening.
call out.
That's
I
happening for
really
sure.
I vibe with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Marvel has stayed away from like straight up monsters, which I felt
Yeah.
is it's low hanging fruit, but
Yep.
there's not a lot there.
They've
So
stayed away
I
from
agree
it
with that.
for
Doug.
they've stayed away from it for a long time. So like
Yeah.
at this
Mhm.
point, it's sort of like, ooh, let's just bring out an easy one. Like, right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But you're right, Brian. Like Defenders.
But you
of
went
the
with Man Thing first. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
like
Man thing
damn.
maybe was testing the waters. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, no, I
Defenders-
agree. And they
Defenders of the Streets is a good call out too, Brian. Like, I mean, think about the people who we haven't seen
Yeah.
yet. Like, there's very few people we haven't seen to get your core group of defenders. Like, we've
Right.
gotten Shang-Chi's
Punisher's coming back.
Shang-Chi's a defender, Daredevil's a defender, Moon Knight is technically a defender. That
Right.
leaves only like Luke Cage, which we've gotten rumors that's
Yeah.
potentially coming, and
Yep.
we've also we would need like a Emma Frost or a Cloak and Dagger, and I think those are very easy and bridge that
Yes.
gap to the supernatural world. So those are other folks that I think you could
Yeah.
bring out if you needed to.
Where does Wonder Man fall? Street level?
Wonder Man was technically an Avenger.
He was an Avenger, right?
Yeah.
So in the comics, not that it has
Yeah.
to be that way. Just
Right.
saying that's my frame
Mhm.
of reference.
I could see that. I mean, that'd be interesting too.
But
He
yeah,
also dies again.
he dies on the first mission, by the way. I was
Yeah.
just reading this today because my son asked me a question who he was, and I was like, oh yeah, he dies on his first mission as part of the team Force Works. Sorry, Wanda. You're tasting men. They just immediately die. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry, Wanda.
Yeah. She's the problem.
She has terrible luck and she can control probability. Come on, Wanda. Like you can do that. You're a supreme witch. You can do it. Anyway, my bold prediction, I'm just re-upping Madam Hydra. I think that's going to be a big reveal either in Captain America New World Order or some other movie where she's going to be the lead antagonist, or it's just going to be made clear, nah, she's the bad one. It's probably going to happen in Thunderbolts, but Captain America New World Order, that could happen. Anyway, just doubling down on that and giving another detail. And I definitely agree with the mutant stuff. I think mutants are phase 7, if that's what we're calling this.
Yeah.
That's a prediction way in the future.
Way down the line. Yeah.
My phase 5 prediction is I do think Kang is going to be showing up, and I think it'd be really cool if he's like either in the background or if it's like, oh, like no, Kang is like he's everywhere. He's hanging out with the Marvels. He's with Ant-Man, in Quantumania. I think that would be really cool to see. I do have a prediction that we'll see more of Kang to set him up as, oh no, this is a threat that impacts everybody. And that theme weaves with what Marcus was saying. Yeah. My main idea is that I think Kang shows up in more projects.
I think whether we want or not, I think whether we want to or not, I think one of the things that is coming is next year is going to be the year of Jonathan Majors. Like,
I hope so.
With Creed 3, and then that like World War II movie that he's in.
Oh my gosh!
And then
he's gonna have a great year
with Quantumania. Like, and even with like Loki season 2 shooting like here and there too.
Yep.
Like, I think it's going to be the year of Jonathan Majors.
Oh my gosh, Loki season 2.
He deserves that. Yeah, he deserves that.
Yeah,
I also think more Hulks are coming. I think more everything where you can multiply, right?
More everything.
I think more Hulks, more Spider-Mans, like that, more Spider people, like whatever that looks like. I definitely think you'll get more iterations of characters for you to pick your favorite and who you like.
And I need to say, I can't remember what episode it was, but I said, Marcus, I don't know, man. I don't know if they're going to do a whole other trilogy. And I pushed back on it after seeing that report, after hearing what Marcus has told me. I have changed my mind. I'm convinced there's another trilogy because I feel like they just put a bunch of submarines full of money parked outside the coast of Tom Holland's wonderful home. And they're like, do you want to be like the best superhero for another 10 years? And he's going to be like, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Like,
because if I'm looking at it right, he took a break. Tom Holland got quiet.
Yeah, he hasn't done
what he said he wanted was
anything.
He said he wanted to take a break and take a step back. I think it's been about a year and a half.
Was he in anything else?
He did a show called The Crowded Room that is in post-production, but it looks like it is the only thing he has in development for 2023. The only project.
Huge break, which is what I think he needed after Spider-Man No Way Home. That run that took a lot out of him. So when he comes back, I think he's going to come back, and it gives him time to age himself up a bit into this Peter Parker that we, a more mature Peter Parker too.
Yeah. The last movie he wasn't. I take it back. He did Uncharted in 2022, which got mixed reviews.
We don't need to talk about that. We don't need to talk about that.
I'm so sorry for bringing it up.
There is definitely more Uncharted movies coming, but yeah.
The only other non-Spider-Man role he's had in the past 3 years was Cherry.
And The Devil All the Time.
And The Devil All the Time was the year before
Delusions.
Anyway.
I could also see them going a route and this maybe involves Sony a little bit more, but I could see them doing. More symbiotes are coming. I could see them doing I don't remember what run where it's all the symbiotes take over New York, but you could do that if you wanted to. So
are you kidding me? That would be the next No Way Home, because you could do half of the Avengers squad and be like, oops, all symbiotes. That prints money. You want to see evil? That's
a cereal, I think. Oops, all symbiotes.
Oops, all symbiotes. Is your delicious cereal?
Marvelo's Oops, all symbiotes.
Oops, all symbiotes.
Yeah.
What you want to put? You want to put Haley Steinfeld in a symbiote costume? Great. Everyone will have a field. Yes. Florence Pugh. Why not? I don't know. Anthony Mackie. What's he up to when they film? He could do a lot.
Not a lot.
I don't know I haven't looked at his IMDb.
I do like that they doubled down on him being Captain America.
That is a positive. Yes.
Everybody was like, no, he's Captain America. They was like, no, Steve is our Captain America. And then even Chris Evans was like, no. Sam is your Captain America.
They were all like, where were you on January 6th? Never mind.
It's honestly though, Anthony Mackie is Captain America. I'm glad he's going to get a movie. I want to see that on the big screen. I enjoyed seeing him in the show, but I really want to see this movie and see that fully realized as a Cap fan.
Yeah. And as a as a Sam like Falcon Captain America fan, and
Yeah.
he's huge in the Secret Empire storyline. Like
oh
he's
my
the big
gosh.
turning point for like that whole comic book series.
Anyway, shout out to Secret Empire because Steve Rogers is kind of a jerk in that, and Sam Wilson also highlights
It's not his fault. It's a weird. There's a weird reason why it's his fault, but it's not.
Sam Wilson highlights why maybe Steve it's okay to take a step back from being Cap and have other people take the mantle. So
yes.
All right, those are our questions, gentlemen. Any other thoughts before we start to close up? Oh, thank you for the applause.
I think that was handled very well. That's a lot of information to get down in an hour 40.
Brian, you did it. Brian, you did it. You did it. Yeah. You did it, Brian. We did it.
Take your bow.
You did
Take
great.
Your bow.
Oh, shucks. Well, I have a supportive crew here that took it all seriously of doing our Marvel Spectacular. We talked about doing this all the way back in Thor: Love and Thunder, I think, back in July. So there it is for those on the live cast.
Title again.
Yes.
Oh, I did want to say this. I did watch so I didn't watch I Am Groot. I did not watch What If, but I did watch the holiday special for Guardians of the Galaxy, and I do think that people should just watch that. If you're looking for any big Easter egg type shit, it's not in there. It's not in this. There's nothing really major. But I do think people should take the time to watch that. If you're looking for a nice holiday special, something easy to consume with the characters you're familiar with. Kevin Bacon's in it, which I didn't know that before I watched. So I just started watching.
How wonderful.
And then I popped up and fucking Kevin Bacon was there. And I was like, oh, no shit. Like, okay, I'm gonna enjoy this.
And I even watched it with my kids. And it was they loved it. There's a ton of Drax, by the way, does so well with kids. And Mantis. Absolutely wonderful with kids. Give them a kids show. I'm kind of kidding. Kind of.
I do think it's funny. This is the second Marvel property that Kevin Bacon has been in, if you count Day of the X-Men First Class movie that they did, because that
deep pull
technically counts. But I think I enjoyed it, and if you're a Grinch like me and you're looking to get into the Christmas spirit, this movie will take you there. So if you're one of those, if you are one of those people who's like, not till December 1st, then you know what?
So you
watch this and I have my tree up and everything, Brian. So
good. Celebrate the season. It's not here very long.
So so if you are one of those people who enjoys movies that put you in the spirit, this will do it.
He must have
what a wonderful note.
Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future come visit him last night because all of a sudden he's in a cheery fucking movie.
And for some reason there were two of them and they all looked like the two of you. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm not exactly sure what that was.
But it was like a ex Marvel, so like the Ghost of Christmas Future.
You should be careful of a big black man walking in your house in the middle of the night while you sleep. That might be a different scenario.
I had a feeling it was a ghost.
Oh, okay, got it.
But yeah, no, but Brian, again, thanks for putting all this together. This was outstanding.
It was dope.
But gentlemen, things that you'd like to plug before we close stuff out?
I just want to big shout out to my wife, Maggie Roush. She helped me make sense of all of this data and showed me the limitations of it. And if we do this again, we'll do it a different way. But she was instrumental in helping me find all the stuff in the data that I talked to you about. So big shout out to her. Go support her, thelovenerds.com. The information is going to be in the episode description, so you can see how it's spelled there. There's great recipes there. If you got people coming over in the next few weeks, just make it easy on yourself. Just go there and just cut and paste the ingredients list, and then paste it into your grocery list. Just call it a day.
Absolutely. So again, shout out to Maggie Roush for helping understand the data and comb through it. So
humble, you dig what I'm saying? That's never offended, always humble, you know what I'm saying? Follow the mantra, NOAAH. Go buy yourself some Gizzier, go buy yourself something nice, you know what I mean? Go listen to some music. There's a lot of shit that you can get underneath. You never know what we're gonna pop up with next. I also do want to say rest in peace to Tommy, the Green Ranger, Jason Frank. Because that's just a sad scenario, but I did want to take time to say that was somebody important to my childhood, and so I just want to take time to say that. But follow the mantra, never offended, always humble, you dig?
Absolutely. I just want to plug this podcast. So now's a great time of year. We're kind of wrapping out the end of the year, so we got a lot of fun stuff that we're talking about. But if you enjoyed this episode and you want to listen to more, consider sharing us with a friend or a family member, or leaving us a review. And if you're feeling like you have some ways that you want to support us financially, patreon.com/filmsinblackandwhite. Sign up for a tier, join the live stream. The link will be in the episode description for you all as well. Also want to put out a plug there that if you are a beer loving person and you are in the Vermilion area, we are getting a brewery. 19 is starting up. So if you are looking to support a local business as they get off the ground, we'll post a link to their whatever crowdfunding resource that they're doing for their stuff. So yeah, you can check that out there. But we also have a 3-step process to success.
Damn right.
And I would love it if Brian would give us that first step.
Hi, folks. December's right around the corner, and you maybe set a goal for yourself to read so many books. Well, guess what? You still got more than 31 days. Absolutely. By the time this podcast comes out, you got 31 days to get going on that goal, or at least make it 10. So read a book. It doesn't have to be a long book. You don't have to read War and Peace in Russian. Just go get like a 200-page book. Go read some poems. Please go read. It'll enrich your mind. It'll make you a better person.
Absolutely.
That's a fact, Jack.
Absolutely. Marcus, what is our second step?
The second step is to drink some water. Listen, I know it's getting cold outside. I know the sun may not be out, but you still need to drink some water. It is ashy season. The best way to prevent ashy elbows and the best way to prevent cracking elbows is to maybe drink some more water. You know what I mean? Worst case scenario, you got to piss a little more. Yesterday, when to go piss, it was clear. You know what that means? I'm hydrated. All right. So I might be overly hydrated, honestly.
Yeah, you're right.
That might be what that means. But you want to go drink some water, treat yourself to something nice like some Voss or some Fiji water, you know what I mean? Or at least if you're drinking out of tap, get a little Brita or something like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Treat yourself.
And the last step is, in the wintertime here in the Midwest, you can't go outside as much because it's snowing, which means you're trapped in the house sometimes because it's so cold or the weather's bad. And the worst thing to do is to be trapped in the house with someone who doesn't wash their ass or their legs or their face or any other part of their body. It's a lot of stank that's hanging around. Don't bring the ghost of previous Christmases along with you as you go to this one via your ass. Wash that old ghosty, musty, old Christmas ghost ass out and get the new 2022 Christmas ghost in there with some freshness, with some soap. So wash your ass, and the ghost of Christmas present will thank you. So that's what I have.
Wow, incredible theme weaving there, Doug. Excellent.
I did. I'm very proud of myself.
I am too.
We will be back next week with another episode of Films in Black and White. But in the meantime, and in the between time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We'll catch y'all next week.
I'm gonna play this intro one more time.
You should. It's wonderful.
See you later, bitches.